Somerville Planning Board meeting for Wednesday to February 25th, 2026, please come to order. Adequate notice of this meeting as required by the Open Public Meeting Act has been provided. A copy of the notice specifying the date, time, and location was 1, posted on the bulletin board outside Borough Hall, 2, mailed, faxed, or emailed to the Courier News, and 3, given to the Clerk Administrator. This meeting is a judicial proceeding. Any questions or comments must be limited to the issues the board may legally consider in reaching a decision, and the decorum appropriate to a judicial hearing must be maintained at all times. Roll call.
Andrea Adair.
Here.
Chris Addicks.
Here.
Larry Cleveland.
Here.
Tim Hayes.
Here.
Bill Kale.
Here.
Jason Kraska.
Here.
John Manilio.
Here.
Barry Van Horn is excused. Mayor Gallagher.
Here.
Councilmember Vroom.
Here.
Chairperson Werner.
Here. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have a lot to discuss tonight, so I will forego comments. Our ARB reviews, we had one from 1517 West Main Street. This was, I think this was a sign?
It was just a sign.
Yeah, coffee shop.
Okay, it was in there. There was no issues. It looked great, so. All right, minutes for February 11th, 2026.
So moved.
Andrea Adair. Yes. Chris Addicks.
Yes.
Larry Cleveland.
Yes.
Bill Kale. Yes. Jason Kraska.
Yes.
John Manilio.
I don't think I'm eligible.
Tim Hayes.
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher.
Yes.
Councilmember Vroom.
Yes.
Chairperson Werner.
Yes. All right, we have a resolution for amending Resolution 148 East Main Street, Pops Place.
So moved.
Andrea Adair. Yes. Chris Addicks.
Yes.
Larry Cleveland.
Yes.
Bill Kale.
Yes.
Jason Kraska.
Yes.
John Manilio.
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher.
Yes.
Councilmember Vroom.
Yes.
Chairperson Werner.
Yes. All right, we are going to do just kind of veer from the schedule for a little bit. I'm going to have Ron come up. We are about to talk about some things that there's a lot to give as an overview before we actually do the formal discussion. So I would kindly ask that he gives an overview on these items.
Good evening, Madam Chairman, members of the board. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Ron Gordon. I'm a senior partner with the law firm of Rainone, Coughlin, and Mincello. We are your special counsel for affordable housing and redevelopment. And it's my pleasure to be here this evening to talk to you about where we are and how we got here. The borough of Somerville is to be commended for the position and the actions that they have taken in order to meet their affordable housing obligation. You may or may not know that in the prior rounds, the borough did not participate in either COA or any of the declaratory judgment actions, but now has joined in. As a result of joining in with the statute that was passed about a year ago, which amended the way affordable housing is dealt with in New Jersey, we have had a series of meetings with both Fair Share Housing Center, the court, the governing body, the mayor, and I'm sure that you've been involved at least to a certain degree, because the way that the compliance mechanisms work is that they require ordinances of the governing body to establish the way that affordable housing will be implemented in the borough. What we're here for tonight are several parts of that same process. As the planning board, you are tasked under the municipal land use law with making a determination and recommendation to the governing body whenever there are zoning ordinances that are being considered by the governing body as to their compliance with your master plan. The reason that I phrased it the way I did earlier, that there are several aspects of what we're doing this evening, is because the part of your master plan that we are working through in affordable housing is your housing element and fair share plan. So if you had not and do not adopt the housing element and fair share plan, which provides for your affordable housing mechanisms, then the ordinances would not comply with your master plan. So they're all kind of meshed together. Not that the governing body couldn't adopt them even if they did not comply with your master plan. It would just require an extra step that's known as a reasons resolution. And the reason would be there's a constitutional mandate to provide your fair share of the regional need of affordable housing, and we are taking every step that is necessary to reach that goal. So with the assistance of your planner, Mr. Cole, Mr. Driver, and your other professionals, we have been in negotiations with Fair Share Housing Center through what is called the Affordable Housing Mediation Program. As a result of that mediation program, which is court-sponsored under the statute, we have achieved an agreement with Fair Share Housing Center. That agreement provides that your affordable housing obligation for this round will be 74 units. That's called prospective need. Because established municipalities would not be in a position to put that many new roofs to meet that obligation, the statute provides a mechanism. It's called a vacant land adjustment. What a vacant land adjustment does is it says, yes, we acknowledge that we have this obligation, but we just can't meet it. We don't have the space. We're not a growing community in the sense that we have a lot of open space where we could put multifamily housing to meet our affordable housing obligation. So the vacant land adjustment is done through your planner, through Mr. Cole. And what the vacant land adjustment that has been accepted by Fair Share Housing and the courts says is that of those 74 units that are your prospective need, reasonably we can put together a plan that requires 22 units of affordable housing. The math then becomes simple. If we have a 74-unit obligation and we can only provide for 22, what happens to the other 52? The other 52 is labeled in a category called unmet need. The municipality's obligation is to provide a reasonable opportunity for the provision of affordable housing. Our agreement with Fair Share, which has the court's approval, says we can reasonably provide 22 units, but those other 52 units, we can't really do them. But if a plan comes along to develop property with a residential component that has more than 5 units, we will do everything we can to ensure that there is an affordable housing component included in that approval. Before you this evening is an affordable housing ordinance that does essentially that. It says if there are going to be 5 or more units that are for sale units, that there will be 20% of them will be affordable. There's your, why it's 5, it's 1 in 5. There's your 20%. If it is going to be rental units, the requirement is 15% to be affordable. And New Jersey has chosen to meet its affordable housing obligations by agreeing through development process that builders can build. We're not going to stop you from building. We're going to encourage you to build if you provide affordable housing. And if you provide affordable housing, you will get a similar yield to what you would have without it, but you have to make it up. Those percentages have to be affordable. So before you this evening are two ordinances that are what's called compliance mechanisms. The way that the statute, the Affordable Housing Statute, has been crafted and implemented is it sets some really tight deadlines. You've met all of the deadlines to date. The next upcoming deadline is March 15th, 2026, when you are supposed to have adopted, you, meaning the borough, not the planning board, supposed to have adopted the implementing ordinances that we have said we would do to meet our fair share obligation of the regional need for affordable housing. So, you've got before you this evening I call it the catch-all ordinance. That's the affordable housing ordinance. It's ordinance 2786-26-0217. It creates subsection H entitled Affordable Housing. And you have before you ordinance 2787-26-0217 entitled Land Use and Development, Article 11, Zoning, to create an affordable housing overlay, paren AHO-1, close parentheses, zone on Block 127, Lot 4 in the Borough of Somerville, and provide appropriate development regulations therefore. So, part of what the second ordinance does is it attempts to resolve not just your affordable housing obligation, but years of litigation regarding what I'm going to call the Bell Avenue property. I'm sure you're all very aware of it. So the Bell Avenue property provides that it will generate 6 credits of actual affordable housing and 3 bonus credits for the conversion of an existing commercial facility into residential. So the statute gives some incentives. Bell Avenue is taking advantage of some of those incentives to get you more credits so that you will have not only met your affordable housing obligation, you'll meet some of your unmet need. And the way that the system has worked over the last 4 rounds of affordable housing, whatever you don't meet gets carried forward. It doesn't go away. It doesn't disappear. You're supposed to do what you can to meet it, and if you don't, it becomes part of the next round. Next round, July 1, 2035, 10-year rounds. What we have done with Fair Share Housing Center through the agreements and through these ordinances is meet not only your obligation for this round, which is 2025 to 2035, but it takes a look back. And with what the borough has done over the years in providing affordable housing, not only are you meeting this current prospective need round, but we have crafted it so that you meet your prior round obligations as well. From the 1978, 1980 forward, you'll be good through 2035. I don't really want to bog you down in details, but there is some issue regarding Bell Avenue. I'm just going to lay it out there. I'm transparent, got nothing to hide. The issue is the total number of 3-bedroom units that are supposed to be in the facility, not affordables. The affordable units are determined, the number of bedrooms are determined by the Uniform Housing Affordability Control Act, called UHAC. The affordables, if my math is good, will be one bedroom, 3 2-bedrooms, and 1 3-bedroom. The market rate units, the developer would like more 3-bedroom units than we have provided in the ordinance. We've been transparent, we've been clear. The ordinance provides that there won't be more than 5 3-bedroom units. That's what you're being asked to vote on. Having said all that, I don't want to be too pedantic and go on too long, but if there are any questions, we have our professionals here. We're happy to answer anything you may have. And on a personal note, I think the borough's done a great job with this. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Questions?
Not a question, but maybe a clarification. Mike, if you could just outline what the ordinance would allow for on the Bell Avenue site, because I know there's folks from Bell Avenue here, and I think it's fair for them to understand.
Yeah, the ordinance would allow for 34 townhomes style buildings on 3 blocks in that facility with the on-site parking. It's considered A, B, and C, 3 buildings that are going to look like townhouses. A total of 34 units, and there's green space for every property to the east, which was a concern from years ago, and to the west. So the buildings are closer to the road, and the number has gone down from well, originally the proposal was from years ago, 38 units to 34 units. So it's gone down from 38 to 34, townhouse-looking style buildings, and that answers your question.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments?
There was a lot of work done on this. I do want to just thank everybody who was involved. There was a lot of work by the professionals and different board members from different boards, the council, et cetera. So there was a lot of work, so thank you.
Yeah, I agree with Jason. This is probably about a year in the making, and you know, it's not going to make everybody happy, but I think what we've done is created something historic for Somerville. It's shouldering a responsibility. It's apportioning the fair share housing obligation borough-wide. One of the things that we had talked about here and I had talked about at council, we didn't want one building that had all affordable units for a whole lot of reasons. And one in particular is kids going to school. And that is not something that I want to see, or that I think anybody would want to see. That, you know, this is an ability to have affordable housing borough-wide in a very interesting plan. It's not just you build and that, it encompasses rehabilitation. It projects the possibility of what I call incubator housing. It's taking a very creative approach to our affordable housing obligation. And it's putting it in play in Somerville. And, you know, I think the council has embraced this planning board has embraced it, and it's a good plan, so.
I have a quick question, and
Sure.
it's maybe not even appropriate here. I have it on. Can you hear me? I'll move this way. Better?
Yes.
Just curious, affordable housing, which is great, knowing what we are paying for rents that are not affordable housing, who would set the rate? Does that come under that act that you mentioned, the UHAC?
It's a very perceptive question. There are regions in the state of New Jersey, and the allowable rents for the stratifications, moderate income, low income, and very low income, used to be set by an entity called COA, the Council on Affordable Housing. Unfortunately, they haven't done anything in 20 years, so they are now a defunct organization. Stepping into the gap, however, has been the Superior Court, and the Superior Court has counted on planners who are called special adjudicators. They used to be called special masters, to help them implement these plans, and the rents, which are permissible for the various regions, have been established by the Affordable Housing Professional Organization, submitted to the court and approved by the court for the various regions. So I can't give you the specifics, but that's the process.
Somerville's in round 3 is the round that Ron's talking about, which is Somerset, Middlesex, and Hunterdon County. So that region is what, and yearly, the list comes out of what the average family, it's based on family size, affordables, 80% of the median income, low is 50%, and very low is what Ron's talking about. So that's updated annually, is my understanding. And that's what the math is based on. Region 3, in the case of Somerville, those numbers and the size of the family, 1.5 to 2.5. You do the math, and those are the limits set for the affordable housing.
There was one other thing that I did want to point out to the board and the public. In the ordinance, on the minimum lot frontage, there is an adjustment. It is at 387 currently, and it is supposed to be, it will be 388. So there is a foot difference in what we're looking at right now.
Yes, from our perspective as your
Yeah.
Affordable Housing Council, that's a de minimis change. It's not a substantive change, and that's just for the lot frontage.
Yeah.
Not for the lot width or any of the other dimensions that are required.
Thank you, Ron. All right, any other questions? All right, so we will move into public hearing portion for this. I can go right into inviting public up, correct, Kara?
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second?
Andrea Adair?
Yes.
Chris Addicks?
Yes.
Larry Cleveland?
Yes.
Bill Kale?
Yes.
Jason Kraska?
Yes.
John Manilio?
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher?
Yes.
Councilmember Vroom?
Yes.
Chairperson Werner?
Yes. Okay, are there any members of the public that would like to come up? When you come up, just give your name and your address, please.
Mike?
Just make sure the mic's on. And now you're on.
All right. George Palco, 21 Bell Avenue, Somerville. I'm a little confused. Most of the neighbors had this put in their mailbox, basically giving an overview of this, and it was basically the first we've heard of this. My question is, there have been a number of us, the place was half filled for the zoning board hearings, and we felt like the zoning board had our backs. Mike did an exceptional job with the plans and explaining every detail with us if we had questions. The borough attorney for the zoning board did a great job questioning the person building. So my question is, I understand the low-cost housing. I have no problem with that. Obviously, we need that in today's environment. Is this going to just take away everything that was presented by the neighbors at the zoning board hearing? You know, things like water mitigation, because our street floods, homeowners association, because that was left open. They never answered Mike's question. Is there going to be a homeowners association so the place doesn't get run down? Traffic patterns, parking, because the developer had mentioned the amount of parking spaces, and pretty much everyone thought it was ridiculously low, because they were estimating like 1.5 cars per family, which, you know, doesn't happen. So what goes on from here? Is this pretty much because of the affordable housing, it's a done deal, and we just have to watch it being built?
So I'm going to let Ron answer that for you.
That's a great question. The result of the actions the borough is taking, assuming the planning board recommends it and the governing body approves it, just puts the zone in place. The hearings that you're talking about, where you raise those questions, will no longer be at the zoning board, they will be at the planning board, right back where we are, and those same issues can be raised. The plan will be different, so hopefully they were listening to your comments and they will have addressed those issues before they get to a full-blown planning board hearing. But it will require notice and a hearing, and they'll be back here, and I'm sure you will as well.
Right, but basically, all the effort we put into this previously is gone.
Sorry,
Because
you're gonna
no
have to
one
do it again.
here,
So,
other than
so
Mike,
what
heard
I can
what-
also, if I can add something to that, Mr.
Sure, Nick.
Palco. Mike was instrumental in developing the ordinance and the zoning behind this. Mike brought to the table all of those experiences. Those experiences, I wasn't there for those. It was before I came back. But Mike was adamant on certain things that had to be included in this plan. So it wasn't all for naught. Mike understood what the neighbors were looking for, what they were adamant upon, and incorporated as best he could those into this plan.
Right. Mike was excellent. We have absolutely no problems with Mike. He did a stellar job, I might say.
That's why he's sitting where he is.
So the next meeting that this thing shows is the Borough Council, actually on the Borough Council on March 2nd.
That's
There's a
correct.
Planning Board on March 11th. Which is the hearing that the neighbors should be coming to express their,
They can come to both,
both?
yeah.
All right.
So just to clarify, for an application that would come before us, that hasn't been submitted yet. So that hearing itself, where you're looking at an actual plan, a site plan, design elements, parking elements, that has not been scheduled yet,
All right,
because
so
we
basically
don't have
these will be
anything.
just because of the Affordable Housing Act, they're changing that.
This is
the
the
zoning. All right.
adoption of the zoning behind
Okay.
all of it.
Yes.
All right.
But
Just
we
so we
will,
understand.
and
It's a
we
good
will make sure,
clarification.
yes, and we will make sure that the public is very well aware when that application comes before
I
us.
appreciate it. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public? All right, I need a motion to close public.
So moved.
Andrea Adair?
Yes.
Chris Addicks?
Yes.
Larry Cleveland?
Yes.
Bill Kale?
Yes.
Jason Kraska?
Yes.
John Manilio?
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher?
Yes.
Councilmember Room?
Yes.
Chairperson Werner?
Yes. Okay, so we have three things here, right?
Do we have to do them one by one?
Yes, we do, right? All right,
Any order you want to do?
so the first is going to be for the revised housing element and fair share plan, which is dated February 11th, 2026.
So moved.
Second.
Andrea Adair?
Yes.
Chris Addicks?
Yes.
Larry Cleveland?
Yes.
Bill Kale? Yes. Jason Kraska?
Yes.
John Manilio?
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher?
Yes.
Councilmember Room?
Yes.
Chairperson Werner?
Yes. Okay, next up is going to be ordinance 2786260217. This is amending chapter 10295, article entitled, sorry,
11.
don't have my
11.
glasses. Thank you. They're all blending together right now. 11, entitled zoning, creation subsection H, entitled affordable housing.
Make a motion.
Second.
Andrea Adair,
Yes.
Chris Addicks. Larry Cleveland,
Yes.
Bill Kale,
Yes.
Jason Kraska,
Yes.
John Manilio,
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher.
Yes.
Councilmember Vroom,
Yes.
Chairperson Warner.
Yes. Okay, and the next one up, ordinance 2787260217, amending chapter 102 entitled Land Use Development, Article 11 zoning to create the affordable housing overlay, AHO-1 zone on block 127, lot 4 in the borough of Somerville, and provide appropriate development regulations therefore.
I'll move it with the one change that Lisa mentioned before on page 6 to go to 388 feet for the minimum lot frontage.
I'll second.
Andrea Adair,
Yes.
Chris Addicks.
Yes.
Larry Cleveland,
Yes.
Bill Kale. Jason Kraska,
Yes.
John Manilio,
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher.
Yes.
Councilmember Vroom,
Yes.
Chairperson Warner.
Yes. Okay, thank you. We cannot thank you enough. It has been a very long process, and you have been wonderful, so thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairwoman. Thank you, members of the board.
you.
Please thank Chris as well.
Yes. Okay, back to our regularly scheduled meeting. I think I have to pick back up. We are now at, I just want to make sure I'm not missing anything here.
2784.
Yes, all right, so ordinance 2784260202, amending the redevelopment plan, West Main Street and redevelopment area, specifically block 12401, lots 201. I'm not going to say all these lots and blocks. Everybody please. As noted, thank you. This was originally on the 2-4 meeting, and it had to be pulled, and now it is back on tonight for the hearing. So Mike, do you want to give a little bit of background and start with this, please?
Yes, last summer or so, the purchaser for the Granites building did a concept plan, which I do believe the board members all have copies of this.
Yes.
And
We did.
it was favorably received, from my understanding, the council and the planning board. So the ordinance in front of you basically gives the parameters to have this development go forward. It gives the redevelopment parameters. And I borrowed some of the discussion from the ECBD regarding the trees, Larry. There's tree stuff about 6-inch DBH and some beefed up. I took a certain number of liberties the board needs to go over, and I applied some of the redevelopment criteria the board has used in the last 20 years to this redevelopment documents. For example, the lights have to be decorative lights. The building is where it's at, so the setbacks, I'm saying, are not applicable because the building is the building. And I threw some comments about solar panels allowed on the roof, the flexibility, and to encourage maybe some seating or some recreation on the roof. You'll see that. There's a lot of red. So there's a lot of red, a lot of details. OEM, backup power. It's in there because we require backup power on most of the redevelopments. You'll see comments on there. The sidewalks, the building itself is in the SID, and they have pavers which are literally from 1990. So there's a comment there saying replace the pavers with meeting the SID standards, the downtown standards, and put it on a concrete slab so they don't settle, which has been an issue. We've addressed that in the last 20 years. The sections of the pavers which are on concrete are not moving. So you could see that by Starbucks and all that, just for comparison. That's been around for over a decade. So I think it's a prudent move to put concrete under the pavers to give it that base. There is a flexibility built into the neighboring property. If there's a shared parking, you'll see language in there about shared parking on the apartment building. Right now, it's one big parking lot, but there's an actually property line through it. And there's language regarding the remote lot, 10, 15 cars, which is the irregular shape on Veterans. I don't think the concrete sidewalk is in good shape, so I said replace the concrete sidewalk. If the questions for the board is, should it be pavers or should we keep it? It's not in the SID, so the question is, how do we, what is the surface that should be back? going back on that. I used the same criteria on the 1 and 2 families. There is no 3 bedrooms or studios, which is something the board may want to kick around. The concept plan had 1 or 2 bedroom, and the bedroom sizes comply, and the 800,000 square feet for units are in there. It allows the accessories. Basically, the redevelopment plan allows what the concept plan was. Retail, it says that the apartments on South Dowdy, ground floor, are allowed, and it allows for miscellaneous appurtenances like ramps and so forth, steps, and it says certainly if you're going to put steps in the right-of-way, and it's a borough right-of-way, council approval is required for that, but it allows essentially flexibility. The building's not changing, but allowing flexibility to get the egresses and to allow the parking to work. And there's proofs in there about the parking. The planning board would have to look at the parking arrangement, and if there's a variance for parking permitted or revise the documentation, there's language in there saying if the board feels the parking doesn't comply, then obviously you have to scale back some of the units, make them bigger, something to that effect. So your language about urban land institutes in there allowing that. So there's basically, it's a summation of the redevelopment planning ideas we've used in the past and incorporating what the board discussed on the ECBD in December of last year and earlier this year. You'll see similar language. The affordable housing has been beefed up and reflects what we're talking about, affordable, the 20%, 15%, and it says that you have to comply with affordable housing. So that's the nutshell.
Okay. So I also want to point out too, because I know this came up when we actually, we reviewed and we're reviewing your comments for the area need. This specifically also calls out that redevelopment is not currently envisioned for those lots and blocks, right? So therefore, the zone district requirements for the POR shall govern blah, blah, blah. These lots shall not be considered for redevelopment unless the borough receives a request from the property owner. Right. So we wanted to make sure that that was very clear throughout this ordinance as well, that this is specifically for the lots and blocks proposed to be used from this concept plan. And Mike, I think you did a great job of being able to take that concept plan and make sure that those bulk standards match and as best we can without having specifics. And taking in a lot of our comments of what we discussed from when we saw the concept plan.
Yeah, there's language in there about putting a fence or landscaping between the detached irregularly shaped parking lot because they adjoin parking, mostly residentials. So there's language about a decorative fence or landscaping as the board determines, but you'll see landscaping on that end on that plan.
I'm going to open it to questions, comments from the board.
So one question, with the electric vehicle charging stations in section 7, accessory uses, C, are we putting anything in there about where we'd like, not up against the building, preferred?
It's in the ordinance already.
So, okay, I just wanted to make sure
So
that this
the-
just kind of references that, but it
in-
doesn't
it's in-
take that away.
It's in the ordinance, and there's a debate, if the parking lot's there and you're not touching it, I don't think it's applicable.
Okay.
But if you're touching it, you might you might have to get wrapped into it. But if you're reusing the existing parking lot and existing orientation, I think there's a very strong argument that the make-ready state statute, which the borough ordinance says, is not applicable. There's language in there, talk about if you modify it, you have to comply, add it to it, but if you're gonna reuse it, I don't know.
So this doesn't
We'll
give them
cross
leeway
that.
around
The
that.
ordinance is in place, Jason, to address that. I'm just throwing out to you that I'm not 100% sure EV charging is gonna be a mandate if the parking arrangement doesn't change.
Any other questions, comments from the board?
Very detailed. It's everything
Yeah.
we
Not
talked
bad.
about.
I mean, it's what you talked about. I tried to match the plans. For example, the B2, it says the uses for the retail. We don't know these uses for the retail. They're showing limited whatever the B2 is. I think that's easier. Yes, the West Main Street, the main area talks about uses, but the easier way from my perspective is just to go back to Schedule A, which talks about, you just go back to the ordinance and say, the B2. There is a question, and I thought I addressed it on the elevator to make sure it can handle a stretcher, just to make sure that it's in there, that in case you have an emergency, on old elevators, if they can't comply with the stretcher, it becomes a problem of getting this person out. So the elevator, in my opinion, is going to have to get revamped, and I'm basically saying make it meet OEM requirements. There's a comment on there about fire suppression, because it's I didn't know this until Mr. O'Neill pointed this out, that I thought that building was a masonry building. It is not. It's a timber frame building, so it's combustible. So you'll see language that we talked about at NFPA 13 system in there, or as determined by the planning board or the fire marshal, because it is a combustible building. It is not a masonry building. And Rich pointed it out to me about it last summer, that I said it's a masonry building. He goes, no, it's not. So there's comments on the, there's comments in there about because it's abutting the adjoining property, for safety of the building and the surroundings, to put a full NFPA 13 system.
So I guess my only question, I actually had a note on that one as well. Should it just be that it should be in accordance with NFPA 13? And then if they want to deviate from that, it should be a variance? Because it kind of leaves a lot of leeway to say, the fire marshal's office can just say, no, you don't need anything, or you need 10 times that in something, and.
I put wiggle room in the planning board and OEM and fire marshal to what exactly comes here, that there's flexibility for how the board sees this. I didn't want to lock the board in, Jason. I thought the board needs that discretion. But again, we've been doing the 13 system, but it's up to it's obviously the board's charge whether you want to lock it in or give the discretion.
So I guess my question is, there's no way they could subvert it even with that language though, correct? Like,
The
so if,
language says you have to.
that's
do
what, like,
13.
so if,
And/or if the planning board decides this, some part of the abortion doesn't need 13, needs something else, you have the flexibility to do that.
so would we say basically the minimum is 13?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
so.
what can we
That's
put
what
minimum?
I
Yeah.
can certainly change.
Because I
the
hear what
minimum.
Jason's saying, the way it's reading it, like, it's kind of almost saying that our fire official or others could actually subvert that and
Yes.
say, no, not needed.
Well, we
I-
could have just back-
Look,
Yeah,
this is the first flush at this.
no, no.
Never, the board's only seen the concept plan. So this is the first time we've actually started crunching the actual specifics. So as the comments before, on the ECB, the mayor said, look, I want to look about what's the setback, 0 setback. Put that in there.
Yeah.
Larry brought up, we got to get these trees better. We don't want twigs out there. So I incorporated these comments in there. So yes, if it's not 100% right, I completely understand. We can certainly mend it.
Mike, can you just, a 30-second, what is NFP 13 versus?
It's the 13 system. My understanding is the highest. It requires the whole building to be sprinklered, not the closets are excluded or the attics excluded. Nothing is excluded. The whole building is covered with a fire suppression system. So my understanding is the highest NFPA system out there, to answer your question.
Yeah, and I think it's just not only for members of the board, but for members of the public as well. Yeah, good, thank you.
I don't know, it's somewhere.
Anybody else see anything that you want addressed, you want added?
You did a great job.
Yeah,
Do we
you can make a motion.
make a motion to recommend that to the council with those few changes?
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I can. If you want. Yeah, I'll open it up for public comment. Hearing none, I will close public comment.
So I will make a motion to recommend up to council with the few changes that we just said, be adding in the minimum NFPA 13. And I think that was the only thing, actually. Good job, Mike.
Wow. That's got to be a first.
Andrea Adair,
Yes.
Chris Addicks.
Yes.
Larry Cleveland,
Yes.
Bill Kale,
Yes.
Jason Kraska,
Yes.
John Manilio,
Yes.
Mayor Gallagher.
Yes.
Councilmember Vroom,
Yes.
Chairperson Warner.
Yes. Okay, moving on to master plan review element for the historic preservation. So we originally heard and started discussing this on 2/11. We are back for thoughts and comments and discussion from the board on things. Last meeting is when we had Marge here, right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm losing. I feel like it was longer than that, but it was only last meeting.
Lots happened since then.
So looking for board comment, thought process on what the thoughts are based on having some time to digest.
So I'll start, jump right in. I did make some notes to it. I did send them out to everybody to take a look because I made a lot of notes. I guess one of the things I'm not completely comfortable with that I'd like to see reworded in it is making how we recommend making these overlay zones. I don't like the idea of, I think it should be pulled out of the actual master plan and more labeled that if a group of houses or a house or anybody would like to be, they could petition in to be a district or a historic overlay zone, rather than us putting on our plan that we're recommending to have these studies done and have these people do these things. Because it makes it sound like we're pushing everybody, it's basically the entire town from it to be in these historic zones, overlays. And I feel like from the master plan portion perspective, I just didn't feel like that was the direction that the master plan should be pushing. And it should be them wanting to be included, not us telling homeowners that they would have to.
So an opt-in.
An opt-in rather than okay, you 4 neighbors petition, now this entire neighborhood's gonna be a historic, and, that comes with extra costs and everything. So that's the majority of where my comments lie throughout the entire plan. I didn't,
Quickly, just on that
Yeah.
one. So agree with your thoughts, but what would ultimately be the value of having 2 people in a neighborhood going, we're going to do this. We are a what now, right?
So they
we're
would be
an
able to
overlay
apply for-
zone on that property and us.
they would be able to apply for grants
Okay,
because they're considered a historic overlay.
all right. That overlay would allow them to apply for the grant.
That's my understanding of it.
And if I was just one house,
You could
I
still,
could say I'm an overlay and
and I think you can then apply to be I forget the terminology, Marge knows it a lot better.
Yeah.
The contributing historic site that's noted or whatever. So you can get on that, like you can do that as a
All right,
homeowner.
Okay, I was just thinking in my mind a step further, and why would we have this in there, but I see where you're going, so completely optional, but we're not recommending.
Yeah, we're not telling people they would have to, or saying if a couple of residents decide they want to, that the whole neighborhood would become.
Gotcha, all right, cool, all right, gotcha.
I think it would be important as an educational tool to have something in the master plan about the historical zones in town and what that looks like. And then when people look at it, they can say, well, then we can opt into having that kind of a program. I think we can put that on the Historical Society, certainly, but I think putting it out there so people know that the value that their house has and what it is. We've got a lot of people moving into town on a regular basis. We're a sought-after community. But I think, making people aware of what they're buying into would be a great thing. We don't have to call them historical overlay zones, but we can just lay out, as Marge said in her presentation, where those areas are and what those.
Yeah.
Don't we have, I'm sorry to interrupt you, because I just want to make sure, don't we have that in some of the historical element, or did we remove that last time? Because I thought we had those areas called out in the historical element.
We have it for guidance, for informational purposes, and I think what Jason is saying is he wants a little stronger language.
Roger's saying.
Unnecessarily.
Well, Roger's saying,
I'm
but
sorry,
yes.
Roger, but
That's fine.
So,
But I agree with him.
And that's my point is, like, I remember it and other people aren't. So it's in there, and I think, yes, to that point, Mike, we need to make that a little bit more prevalent as whether it's an addendum to it, to, the historical reference of all areas within Somerville, and it breaks it down, and we should have it matching the maps of, whether it's the Victory Zone or the, area or something else, like, I think that, yes, I think that, to Roger's point, is a good thing to
Yeah.
have as part of that master plan, because it sets the stage for, and we're gonna get into a little bit more of a discussion about the master plan in a second, but that, I think it sets the stage for the tone for, okay, this is where we were, and this is what you're seeing us move towards, but we're also not forgetting where we were. Which to me is what makes the historic element so important to the borough.
If it would be beneficial, I can work with Jason to come up with some language for the planning board to spitball over, to go back to Roger's point, Jason's point, come up with something, and we can float it to the planning board. The planning board's comfortable with it, see if Marge and the historic are comfortable.
I
start to
love
keep it.
additional meetings.
Yeah,
I'm with you, I'm with you. I'm good.
You got plenty of time, don't
Yes.
you, Jason?
But I think going back to Marge's comment, I think that we need to, and again, from historic, is just let people know that designating their home a historic site does not mean they can't do anything to it. And I think that that's where some of our concerns are, because we certainly don't want to make it so that people are paying more to live in their homes. They're already paying enough. But I think that if we have that understanding of what that designation means, going along with the property that's over on, what is that? I can't think.
West
Anyways,
End?
No, it doesn't matter. Anyways, these houses look great. Look at the Borough Hall, right? It is certainly not what it looked like when it was a house, but it still is on the register. And so we do have issues with doing building and things along those lines and making improvements, but the facility is still usable. So I think that that's what people have to understand. And if I may, I know I'm capitalizing here, but downtown, I think that we need to, I don't know how we make that a little bit stronger, because there's a character, and that's kind of what we struggled when we were talking about the Granites building and what the initial plan had come to us with, is maintaining the character and the styling that we have downtown and not losing that, because we have some new buildings, but they don't capture the ornamentation that we have, that the little things that you notice, that the mayor takes pictures of. And shares with everybody, but those are the things that we notice, and I think we have to do something to make sure that people understand you're buying that property. We want to see you maintain and upkeep that property and keep that the way that it is. I know there used to be tours, if I'm not mistaken, of the second story tours of downtown. There are some pretty tremendous places that I've had the pleasure of going into for false alarms that I never would have gone into had I not seen that. But it is a tremendous thing, and I think that we've got to try as best we can to maintain that. And obviously, the initial discussion with Granites was due to concerns about it not being salvageable, but with the new folks now, they feel that they can, and really pushing people and encouraging them to do that. Maybe that's incentives, as the mayor's talked about before, but keeping that charm, I think that ornamentation is extremely, it's who we are, I think, as Somerville.
I agree. And I think Roger brings up a bunch of valid points. And it's not just the Main Street corridor, it's north, it's the High Street corridor as well. And it's one thing that we've actually started to talk a little bit about is, the character of the homes that front High Street but back into our parking lots. You have these beautiful old Victorian homes, and they've got these beautiful old carriage houses. How do you activate the carriage houses and make them something other than maybe just an apartment or just a garage that's not looked after? And how do you activate them and make them, again, a part of the character? Yeah, it fronts maybe a parking lot, but you know what? That's okay. It's adding a little bit of life and vibrancy to an area that otherwise people want to escape. So it's something that we've talked about here, and we've kind of talked about in some of my meetings on Thursdays, and it's something that we need to address.
A couple of years ago, we did approve like an art gallery behind one of those houses. We approved something.
We did not.
Never got approved.
It never got approved.
Oh, I thought we went through the whole process.
It went into a process.
Okay.
That was before me.
Well, okay, I know we talked about it, and there was gonna be apartment there, so that's it.
That's exactly,
way
that's a
to
great
go.
example.
And that was backing up to
Yeah.
the main parking
Yep.
lot, but it was gonna be used for something else.
Yeah.
But it never took off.
No, it met with too many zoning roadblocks.
Okay,
Yeah,
then that's the goal, is to
Yeah.
remove some of that.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Just one other thing I had that, if people, I don't know, the key contributing historic sites, maybe that could be in a different, like, we can reference that we have a bunch. I just don't know how I feel about putting people's private addresses into our master plan who didn't ask to be, or they actually aren't on any historic registry. It was the Historic Society went around, they said this building has historic significance, it's not on any national qualifying list, but we think it does, so we're putting their address in the master plan. So I don't know how I feel about that.
I can tell you, in some of my other towns that have established actual historic districts, that's exactly what happens. You have to have a public hearing before you create a district, before you amend a district to remove or include additional properties. So they have the opportunity at that point to have their say as far as it goes, but ultimately, it's up to the governing body, input from the planning board, as to creating that district and what's in it or out. It doesn't necessarily mean you have to do that, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, so I understand if we created a district, we would, but these aren't in a district, these are just houses that they deemed, so if they went by Lisa's house and decided, we think there's historical significance, they put it in here without even asking you. And it's not in a district or anything, it's just random houses throughout the town. So, I don't,
Yeah.
That's interesting. I never thought of that. You know, because there are a lot of homes that are of, we believe, of significance. When you look at them, they're old, they're beautiful, does it have an impact if their property is in our master plan?
and that's what I
Listed
worry about,
Without their
without their consent.
Well, I mean, I think
That's very
it's,
interesting.
I think it's, I don't know if it's necessarily only a legal question. I think it's also, there's going to be some that are going to say, yes, have no problem, and there's going to be others that say, absolutely not. It's my private residence, and it shouldn't be in your actual public master plan.
Well, does it have a potential economic or development impact by being within the master plan, positive or negative?
I would say unless you're going to marry that with requirements in your ordinance, then the answer to that is no. They may have a personal feeling as to what that may do, but unless you impose any additional requirements, restrictions on it, I would look at that as no difference as putting on your website, these are some historic buildings that we believe should be highlighted in the borough. Something along those lines.
All right, so any other comments or questions right now for the historic? We're not done with it, I'm just asking, is there any questions currently?
No, so I wasn't at the last meeting. I did listen to a little bit. I read the housing element and what Jason had wrote. So I kind of like somewhere in between. The overlay zones. I wonder if maybe the contributing historic sites is something that people could opt into, saying like, oh, I think this should be. They want to preserve the character of the house. They own it. They've spent their whole life there. They want to preserve it for the next owner. So maybe that's it instead of an overlay zone, instead of the whole zone, just a specific house. And I think we should probably look at some type of preservation. Not fully that it hurts the homeowner. I had one application in Short Hills or Milburn, and I thought it's unique. So if you want to demo a house that's on that list, then you have to go in front of them and you have to state the reasons why you feel that you could demo it. Even if it's in disrepair, it's too costly to repair. If it's a nice house and you just want to knock it down and build a new house, that was a different story. But then they have different kind of criteria. So if you want to do an interior renovation, you don't have to go in front of the board or historic preservation. If it's something that can't be seen by the public, again, doesn't need to go in front of the board. It really takes into account just like the character if you're like driving down the street and what the house looks like. So I thought that was interesting.
It is an interesting, I don't think we've ever discussed it to that level. All right, so we're not done. We need to kind of sum up get to that next step. do you want to work with Jason on some of the?
I'll work with Jason and we'll come up with some language for the board to kick around.
And I'd like to incorporate some of the comments that, as well,
Yeah.
that Roger and John. Yes.
Yes.
But I'm
of
saying,
course.
I know you have a bulk of the document reviewed, so, but I think we need to also make sure that in that, what's presented for next meeting also has John and Roger's comments in there as well.
Sure.
Because then we're gonna get to a point where we're gonna have to sit, everybody look at it and say, okay, what do we really want and don't want?
Yeah.
But I think I like to see every option in front of me, and sometimes I need to see that visually before my brain kicks in on what I like better or not, so. Okay. So before we move to discussion items, I did want to kind of go over, does everybody here actually, well, I know John Manilio does and some others, but does anybody here actually even know and understand what the master plan is and why we do it? It's okay to say no. Okay. So even if it's just one. So the master plan, I put some notes together. This is, I won't lie, I pulled out a lot of my notes when I had my initial meetings with Bernie Novato when I first came onto the board a very long time ago. We're not saying how long. And these are things that stuck with me when Bernie and I first, it was probably the first year that I was on the board, because it was that time. The review process was already kind of started at that time, so I kind of came into it. So I had a lot of questions, right? Because I was kind of in your spot, right? I really was like, what is this master plan? What does it do? Why are we in charge of it? And what are it supposed to be? So master plan is that long-range strategic document that provides a comprehensive vision and framework for our future growth, development, and decision-making. Its core purpose is to guide intentional, and this is something I always remembered with Bernie, guide intentional, coordinated progress rather than reactive decision-making. So as we're looking at this, right, if you really look at where the master plan sits right now and what we're reviewing, right, to include all, where we've seen, what we've seen in redevelopment plans, it literally has built Somerville and been a roadmap for Somerville for the last 25, 30 years. So I was thinking about, I'm like, okay, and we keep saying, okay, how do we see the next 20 years? How do we see the next 20 years? And I don't know if that we're really there to be able to really kind of say that, but we kind of have to in order to continue this progress of reviewing our master plan. So I think one of the things that I think we all do need to sit and and I'm going to bring it up at the next meeting. What are some of the things that we see, right? We had Otto come in and talk about some of the things of what and how they see New Jersey unfolding and what's happening in New Jersey. And I think we need to take that into consideration, right? Are we done with the density, right? If we are, what are we replacing the density with? Is, Brian, Mayor Gallagher brought up a good point, I think it was at the last meeting, where you said, the master plan previously was geared towards supporting a downtown, right? Not that we don't want, but I think the development side of that, we've kind of moved beyond, right? We can only have so many apartments. And I think we all kind of have that tired feeling of, enough is enough. But we still need to keep expanding. We need to still keep evolving so that we outlast, because that's what happens, and I'll never forget Bernie trying to explain to me that what scares people about planning and moving forward is the future, is they're just so used to the way it is right now, they don't want to see that change. And I think the way I see that master plan is a portion of, okay, but it's not going to be scary. See, we've thought about this, and here's a vision so that we can, I want my children to stay, right? I've got one child that and my grandchild is like 1.5 miles away from me. I wouldn't give that up for the world. I think that those are things that a lot of us look at, right? We want, but we have to have that available units. And that may also mean, we always talked about, one of the things I thought was, when Otto presented, one of the things that I thought was interesting was having more senior options for senior housing, right? And I think one of our biggest focuses, right, we've been so focused on, hey, what were we doing on the transient lines and that transient developments, right? We wanted to bring in those millennials. That's what they were looking for. And now I'm like, okay, but we don't have any place for us to go. And I think that was part of that messaging too, is You know, I love my home. I love having that I have a room that's all put for my grandchild, but there might be a time in 10 years I'm like, you know, I want to downsize. Is that available for us? And I'm not giving answers here. I'm saying these are things we really need to, because that is going to shape. It also shapes how we want to address historic. Like, what do we want to keep versus what is acceptable to move forward and make progress and change on. And that applies to every single one of the elements. When we're looking at zoning differently. So I think, you know, looking for that strategic direction, long-term goals, desires, how and what do we feel that we think Somerville should look like in 20 years, 30 years? Because that's the whole purpose of this document. And if we can't see that, we're going to struggle with each one of these elements. Go ahead.
I have a comment about that. Some of the things you're talking about could be simple policy, social policy issues about making homes available for the elderly to stay, retire in place. Those could be policy issues and not necessarily build another building or a zone or plan for a zone. Some of it could be a policy change. Encourage redevelopment, encourage putting ramps in somebody's house, encouraging, you know, those kind of things could be policy issues, not necessarily part of the master plan. Most of the time, the master plan, we're thinking about what do we envision we see.
But I think to that, it's not just, if you really read these documents, it's not just what you see. They are shaping, right? So if we do see some of that, then I think it does need to be outlined and very generically, right? We're not saying we want a policy written, but I think those kind of things do have to be, you know, that shapes the vision, right? But it allows for the flexibility of how that vision unfolds. And that's the purpose of this master plan. It's not supposed to give us such a blueprint that is so specific that in 5 years it doesn't work. And I think those comments like that of how we see the housing element, when we're looking at housing, what kind of housing do we see? What do we see that we don't have? That helps also to shape. You know, another interesting point that I thought Otto made was, you know, we have been downtown, right? We were so focused on, you know, ensuring that we had enough liquor licenses. And listen, we could still use some. I'm not going to say ever that we don't. But, you know, the next generations, they're not drinking. They're not going out and drinking the way we were, right? So, and not that we were all drunk, so I don't want to. I realized as it was coming out, I was like, I don't know if that sounds so good. But they don't go out and drink the way that our younger selves used to. You know, it's very different. Okay, so that also could come into what we're also trying to support downtown. And how we see downtown. When you're looking at, I had another thought about something and it slipped out because I got stuck on the fact that we were a bunch of drunks. So, but Larry, I guess what I'm getting at is I don't disagree with you in the sense of what you're talking about, but I do feel there is a way that should be in the master plan somehow. And then that's some of those discussions on, because remember that master plan is a guide for everything moving forward. You know, if we're going to discuss a zoning change, we're going to discuss this. This is the template. It has to be, like tonight, it has to be in line with our master plan. So I do think that those things should come up. I do think that but I think we need a little bit better direction as we're reviewing each one of these. And Mayor Gallagher is the one that kind of brought it up, and the more and more I thought about it, I think he's right. I don't think we have that direction.
I'll summarize what you said kind of into three categories. And I think when we look at the master plan, look at it through three lenses: the economic lens, the residential lens, and the social lens. And, you know, so for example, the social lens, that could be historic, that can be recreational. A lot of those elements can fit into that social. Why does somebody come here to live? And you look at those three, I look at those three categories and I say, okay, the economics behind it, what's happening? What's the economic engine? That was the drive 20 years ago, was getting the economic engine going. And we did that. We did it very well. The economic engine still has to drive, but it changes. What we created was the residential component to support an economic engine. So now we've got that economic engine going. What do you change in your zoning mix downtown? What do we want to see? Is it, we now have outpaced the mall. But what's next? What do we see? For years, we've talked about trying to get RVCC to have some kind of presence in our downtown, to add another element. That's partly economic, it's partly social. So, you know, I try to combine those three elements. People come here for education. They come here because we're at the center of life for Somerset County. We've got walking trails. Is it now time to expand the walking trails? Get the landfill going as our central park, which it is. So these are the things that I look at when I think of the master plan. It's okay, what do I want to see economically, residentially, and socially 20 years from today? I try to boil it down into those three, and that's it. I'm done.
Any other questions? Does it give clarity?
That was helpful.
Thank you.
That was very helpful.
All right, good, I'm glad.
Yeah, just, it'll help me to kind of frame things. And I like that, I like the fact that you really have to define your future, and then you define the elements to get you to the future.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, where did all this go?
They're all pieces towards that, yes.
Now that helps.
Once you
Thank
have the 30,000-foot view, right,
Right,
then you
then this is
then you
the,
narrow down.
right.
30,000 view, overview, broad brushes, and then how do you make that happen?
These are the things that help make it
Right.
happen. Okay, thank you.
I have another suggestion. When I first came on to the planning board, we were given the master plan from like 1990 or 19.
You mean, you're talking about previous versions?
Yes, but I mean, just to see, this is what they thought in 1980. And we could see all the things that actually happened and the things that didn't, and what they thought in 1980. Some of it came to fruition, some of it did not. But then other things came in, another master plan comes through, and we go with that. So we have, if we can look back at the old one, we can, it's not to, it's just to show what they thought in 1980 or 1990 and what we got out of it 10, 20 years later. Looking back, it's not a bad thing.
Yeah, what's the oldest one you have, Mike, do you know?
There's some zoning documents. I'm not going to say it's a master plan from the 50s.
That's too long.
I know.
Yeah, I think I do also. I'll try to dig it out, and then I'll bring it in, and if it's electronic, then we can just send it to everybody, just so that they can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to see, it's just to see what the old ones did, so that we can understand what we want to try to do, just like what Tim was saying.
Yep.
I'll try to find it.
Yeah.
All right.
So I have a question about like the surrounding areas. Like how much, lack of a better term, intelligence do we have of, you know, our neighbors, like what they're going to build, or, you know, like a shopping center is going up, or a new Home Depot, or, you know, things like that that we're aware. So like, hey, we don't spend or waste effort, you know, trying to do the same thing here. You know, how do we look at, you know, our
So there-
transportation and stuff around, like,
There's a couple ways. The best way that we've seen, and we've been struggling in it, is the regional center partnership. That's the whole purpose of why that was formed, was exactly that. That the partners of Bridgewater, portions of Bridgewater, Raritan, and Somerville collaborated together. A lot of the greenway has been developed by that. The bridge project that went over from Somerville over to the mall, that was all a vision as it came out of the regional center partnership. A lot of Dukes and how we can connect to Dukes. That really has been instrumental in trying to be, so that we could be interconnected and kind of, to your point, be on that same page. As it relates to larger things that, like, you know, whether Home Depot or everything, you know, the surrounding municipalities are required to let the borough know, you know, when they're, if it's depending on proximity, right? Other than that, we watch and we can ask if we hear things. I mean, I know we in the past had reached out to Raritan a lot of times, like when we weren't sure of something, we have a relationship. But that's also, again, what that regional center partnership is there for. And the importance of it is, can sometimes get lost on people, but the main purpose was exactly that purpose.
Yeah, and I agree. I think the regional center is a great place for that data. I don't know if you were here for Jeff Otto, and maybe if not, we'll get that.
I can find the link because I know I
Yeah,
have it.
he's a nationally acclaimed, not economist, but.
Well, he is, but he's also a statistician.
Yeah, and he kind of gave the direction of where the country is going, where the state is going, where the county is going, and where the borough is going from an economic perspective. And also a demographic perspective and what's happening in the world. And I think it's a lot of great data, and it's actually an interesting watch. It's a very interesting watch. So we'll get that to you as well. Maybe to the whole board, just as
Yeah,
kind of a
I'll
refresher.
pull it back up because
Yeah.
I know I have it.
And one other thing, as of, I think it's March 1st, all of the towns have to post the notices of the applications that are coming before them on their website, whereas before it just had to be in the newspaper, and some did post it. So now, to the extent you want to see what's going on the Planning and Zoning
Yes.
Board websites, that'll be there.
Yep. Okay, all right. Moving on to discussion items. Update, this is just going to be an update, quick update from you, Mike, on the stormwater, because we all need to digest.
Earlier today, an email, I sent out the PowerPoint was from yesterday's DEP webinar there's some hard copies here, but everybody got the email. And there's a lot to digest in that. And it was correct when I said that the borough has a year to adopt it. That came out in the questions and answers from the webinar, that yes, you're using the existing ordinance statutes that say you have a year to adopt. So the borough has a year to adopt this, and you have the PowerPoint.
Okay, and then we're gonna, for next meeting, you'll be able to incorporate some of that.
Yeah, I'll digest this into bullet points for the board for a more technical discussion, details about this. But you have the PowerPoint and you have that monster strike-through ordinance that was all the
Yes.
changes. What I'll do is I'll do a bullet point of the changes and what the options are, and get what the board's temperature is on the options.
And this gives us
'Cause
something.
that's what we're
yeah.
left with, essentially.
But this gives us something to review and look at as well, too.
Right, that's the DEP's telling you what has changed. They highlighted it, underscored it. There was a problem with that webinar. Some attendees couldn't get in. I think John was one of them. So they're offering other training dates that I just got an email for that there was some technical glitch. I got a text from John saying, "Are you in?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm in." So, yeah, I will go through this and just give you the bullet points of the changes and what the options are. Really, in reality, it's the options are the only thing to really discuss that the board has control. Municipality, well, the recommendation goes to council, but it's just the options.
Okay, thank you. All right, ECBD, where are we at with this? This is,
The recommendation for the standards for the project
Yes.
down, that's gone to council. So those recommendations were made at the last meeting, and the email was sent to Kevin. Kara was copied saying this is the board's recommendations, so council has that. The study of essentially the county property, I have to do that. I haven't
Okay.
done it yet. We've been a little focused on affordable housing.
yes, no, understood. That's why
and the
I think it's
stormwater.
all blurring together at this point, which is why I'm
Yeah.
asking for where we're at with it.
So I have to do that study, and the state master plan, redevelopment plan has changed, so the references are all different. This is, the master plan on the state level has been the same since, my God, 2000. It just got adopted, the new master plan and redevelopment plan. So the references to that will be done, but it's a similar area in need of redevelopment study that was done on the triangle-shaped on New Street, that the planning board made a recommendation, the council adopted that, and we just went through that on the Granites building. So a very similar study has to be done. I just haven't done it yet. and it's on my to-do list.
All right, because that doesn't stop us from continuing to look at the existing redevelopment area. Did anybody get any further along? I know we talked about last meeting, some surprises that I had seen in some of the different areas, 9 foot, whatever, 60 foot, whatever, I can't remember. 90 feet. 90 feet, thank you. It was a 90-foot building, and it was a little bit surprising to me. So I think that, I don't know if anybody else had a chance to really look it over, put some eyes on it, and maybe some suggestions or things you liked and things you didn't like.
The list of all the development projects in the ECBD was handed out in draft.
Oh, yes.
So you have a list of the projects in the last 20 years. You'll see in draft, it's a 2-page list. It talks about the Station House, the Cobalt, fresh restorations down on Meadow Street. It goes through Pop's Place that we just dealt with, but it tells you where the land development applications were. The ECBD was adopted in 06, 07, so it's about 20 years.
So,
Yeah, sorry.
no, go ahead.
And as the mayor said, the Warren Street deck, that predated the redevelopment zone. So we have the Warren Street, the council, the county buildings, that was done since the ECBD was done. The deck was there, and the building on the corner of East Main and Warren Street, that was in the ECBD, so you'll see the list of the projects.
I think also, going back to the discussion about the master plan and what that strategic decision, how it strategically looks moving forward. I think in some of these redevelopment plans, I know, at least for me, and I'm not saying everybody has to do it this way, but a lot of the redevelopment plans, as I'm going through it, I'm finding myself saying, okay, I don't want that, I don't want that, I don't want that, I like that, I don't want that. And I'm not saying, I don't like the whole thing. I'm just saying I've noticed as I'm reviewing them, I'm seeing more things that I'm like, again, that 90-foot building, right? That stuck out to me as like, okay, I know that's an adamant no. At least for me, and I'm not saying we end up there, but I think one of the things that I would like to see is, maybe for next meeting, I'd really like everybody to go through that and say, all right, I took a look at it from a different perspective, not what I want to see, what I don't want to see. Because one of the things that I thought about as I was looking at the ECBD, specifically, I was looking at the area like by where the park is, in that area, right? That's actually the old place that we wanted all the high density over. It was on that Park Avenue, High Street area, like that whole area pushed back there was that was where all the high-rise buildings were supposed to be. And then I guess another 90 feet on Main Street. I don't know how that ended up there, but when I was looking at that area, I was like, I could see maybe more recreational. So, and I'm not saying it doesn't have to be public space, right? Because that also was a whole other can of worms. I'm not saying that. I'm saying, what other kind of recreations could we encourage? We've always talked about a performing arts building. We've always talked about, so, in that area, that ECBD, it lends itself, because we've said it's the other gateway, right? So how do we envision that other gateway? And I think, for me, in the ECBD, the residential boom, I think kind of overtook, because I think when you really look at it, the vision was to have a lot of that in there, right? That's why they wanted the residential further away and why they wanted lower buildings at that gateway area. So I do think that we can, for me, at least that helped kind of separate it out. So, but I think, I would like the board to come back to the next meeting with hey, these are the few things that stuck out to me that I do think definitely need to be addressed. Because I think that will help guide, okay, well, if we don't like 90 foot, what do we like? Is it that 90 foot period, or is it because you don't want anything high rise there? And then we can, because building height is that one thing, and then next time might come of what we see in those buildings. But I think we kind of have to see both, at least for me. That's, yeah.
I agree. I did go through and I've got markings and notes and everything else, because there's also some things that are just outdated and, certain blocks and lots that have to be offered up to the town for an emergency services building. Don't really think that's applicable at this point. I don't think we're building a secondary one. just double checking. But to that, I agree. And I guess my question is, does it make sense, and Mike, this is probably more for you, if we make notes into these documents and send them to Mike so he can compile them before the meeting? Or,
Yeah, I think what,
because if 7 of us, or I don't know,
Yeah,
all of us say we don't want 90 feet, okay, we all agree on that, but
I think the focus should be the overlay zones and whether the overlay zones, right now, okay, the ECB does this base zoning for everyday stuff and overlay. What's the discussion I'm hearing is some of the overlays are maybe not appropriate.
Yes.
that's,
At the corner. So maybe we focus on eliminating some of these overlay or modifying the overlays to get uses that the planning board's comfortable with in 2026.
yeah,
Yes.
because that's kind of what I was, when I was remapping
Yeah.
Yes.
your overlays and kind
Right.
of saying like, well, I don't think a hotel is, appropriate here, but I do think that in, the B4, when you look at where it is here, well, maybe a theater is okay there.
Yep.
So it's really a tricky, and that's why I didn't know we can sit up here for days
Yes.
going through line by line on this.
But that's why I keep saying that, and I'm not trying to put pressure on you guys, but we need that feedback from you guys, because it's all of us up here. It's not just me, or it's not just Jason, or it's not just Mike, or it's not just the mayor. We're all adding input to this. So I think we all need to come back to the table with, even if it's 2 or 3 things, to your point, that those few things have really stuck out. I mean, there's other ones, I just don't feel like going into them. But yes, like seeing where we had the bulk of the residential, that was that overlay zone. Like, I don't think it's appropriate now. So I think we really need to have that list coming back on focusing. And I think the language you used, Mike, better is let's focus on the overlay zones. What don't we like in those overlay zones, and where they're more appropriate? And maybe you like the concept, but it doesn't belong there anymore.
Yeah, the overlays are good, but the uses are not. That's one thing. But if the overlays are not appropriate today, then this has changed the overlays to where the overlay should be, assuming that the board feels that overlay is the way to do this. Just for the edification, the overlays were done by giving more density. It was for bigger developments. It talks about acquiring 24,000 square feet to get the critical mass for bigger buildings. That was the concept. I'm not married to that concept because we didn't use it in other redevelopment areas. If that concept is still valid, great. If it's not, we just get rid of the overlays and we say what the vision is for these lots and blocks and areas. You don't have to do an overlay. For example, West Main Street, 50 Kirby Avenue, there's no overlays. It says what the requirements or what the redevelopment plan is. I'm just throwing out to the board, I'm not saying you have to get rid of it, but there's nothing in stone saying you have to stick with a base and an overlay. That's the only thing I'm saying.
Nope, I think I like that, and I think maybe that's the direction for the board, is to really kind of come back with some of that, those opinions, do's, don'ts, what you like, what you don't like about that concept.
Is the overlay still valid?
Yeah.
Is that what the board wants to see, or the overlay is dated and we rather list what we want per lot and block or section, like we've done in other plans?
And don't forget, I know that we have the Eastgate concept plan and all that. I know we saw, right, and we just put the ordinance through that would allow for any vision there. That's not off the table, though. There's still a what if that we need to address in that. So, kind of looking at the whole ECBD as if that doesn't exist. That's our base right now. That's what we'd stand by if something happens. But, if looking future, maybe we don't see that anymore if the plan doesn't, or the project doesn't happen, so.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Open business, I don't really think.
I think you have to open those 2 issues.
I can. I don't have to, but yes, I
You have
will.
it listed as we do.
It may be formally, but yes, I will. So, did we change this language, didn't we?
Which one?
Yeah,
I will find out what happened with that.
yeah.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to open it up to public for either the stormwater ordinance or area in need. Hearing none, I will close public. Okay, open business. I don't really have anything for open business. To ensure that the tree ordinance is, once we're done with storm ordinance, we will get to tree ordinance. Everybody knows that's next. I'm not giving you a date because storm ordinance keeps moving, but we're not starting it until stormwater is done. We talked about master plan and zoning and re-exam timeline, so.
And just so the board knows, I did reach out to the Environmental Commission and gave them the same PowerPoint. So,
Perfect, thank
Jeff,
you.
They have that, T. Marie, Jeff, they have this, so for their edification too.
Okay, thank you. All right, I am now going to actually open it up for final public. Anybody out there that wants to come up and talk about something not listed on the agenda? Hearing none, we'll close public session, and I would like a motion for adjournment.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed?